Hey, this is me, Marvin. Who else, right? And I finished watching the episode of the Boondocks called "The Story of Gangstalicious Part 2." Or "The Story of Gangstalicious 2." Yeah, basically same thing. And Boondocks, I always kind of have like a weird relationship with the show because I like a lot of the episodes they make, and then it kind of just makes a point of showing a lot of things about Black culture that's very distinct to Black culture, and also some things just about the world in general and how the world views Black culture and how Black culture interacts with itself. And the way it just kind of addresses things is sometimes just so hilarious, and then sometimes just so on point. It's just like it's almost makes you uncomfortable. It's like, oh man, like they really kind of hit that on the head. And then some episodes I'm not like really crazy about. But I think it's with any show. With any show or most shows, there's gonna be those episodes you're just not really like. It's okay, or there's gonna be something you just don't really think are really that hilarious or really were worth putting that much time or effort into. But we all have our different interests or whatever. But this particular episode is interesting because first off, it's a second part of something they started in the previous season, which was this rapper named Gangstalicious, and he's all thugged out and whatever. Kind of find out, one off, he's not really as tough as he appears on his music and stuff, and two, he's gay. And we all know that in Black culture, being gay is like there's so many things that comes along with it, so many stigmas and so many repressed emotions and just a lot of things that come along with being gay. So you really can't just be gay and leave that. I think, honestly, being gay, no matter what culture you're in, it's gonna come with challenges. That's just the inbred thing of it. It just comes along with it once you decide to go ahead and just kind of like step out and say, okay, I'm gonna be gay or whatever, and just be honest and open about it. As soon as you do that, it's hard just being and trying to hide it. That's really tough too. But as soon as you step out of it and just really kind of like free yourself of it, it's freeing, yes, but at the same time now, a lot of things you have to address more things head on about it because it becomes like a real facet of your life, like in the open world. And this particular group of episodes, or these two, in the end of the first episode, kind of find out that this dude that he owed money to, well, not just that, but also apparently had dated at some point, was like after him after he gotten rich, and he tried to kill him or whatever, right? And so Gangstalicious ended up getting away from that, and Riley thought he saw him kiss Gangstalicious and hurt the whole thing, but Riley kind of blocked it out. And so the next episode, or this particular part two, is about kind of the aftermath of that and how now Gangstalicious came back with a new song. It's a hit song, but the song's weirdly homophobic. Not homophobic, but really homoerotic kind of. And the way they just kind of do the scenes in the music video is pretty funny and stuff. And then it's all very like erotic and kind of like I said again homoerotic very much so. And then he has a fashion line that comes out with it, and the fashion line is really really on that border or even just over the top, which is kind of like stuff that's very gay centric, or very gay awareness, to it. And it's kind of weird. And Riley, he's his biggest fan, so he's like, this dude sent me all his shirts and stuff, and he doesn't understand, or Riley doesn't understand the reason why Gangsta is being so nice to him and stuff. It's just not because he's a fan, but because he saw him getting kissed by that dude. He doesn't need the secret to get out, because we all know that being gay and being a rapper, that's not gonna fly, not in the mass world. Over in the world, just won't accept that. Rappers have to be like these really, really hardcore people, and then everyone's really homophobic too. And so, you just really can't win, not in that particular genre or in most genres. There's some genres you can kind of get away with, I think, like maybe classical music or stuff where your image isn't so much the thing. It's more about the music, but in that particular genre, just there's just no way it's really gonna fly. And it's just now starting to have artists that are kind of openly gay, like Sam Smith, but he's like in pop, so you can kind of pop is kind of like more accepting of that kind of stuff. But rap and R&B, that's gonna be a little more difficult. And so the episode progresses, and Riley starts wearing these clothes that are obviously got him like cross dressing and stuff, and his grandfather's all worried about it and how he's gonna deal with it, and he don't think he can handle it, and he wants his other brother to get his own room and stuff, and it just like all this stuff that comes along with it. And Rod's really into this stuff. Like he's doing like all this kind of like more stereotypical gay stuff, and Gangstalicious still out. You can come to my shows and stuff like that, as long as you keep that secret. And so finally, some chick steps out and writes a book, and in the book she states that he was gay. And once it's out there in the open, everyone's like, "What? He's gay? He's gay?" And everyone's like freaking out about it. Nobody wants to like talk to him or do work with him. And it's just out there. And he finally goes and does an interview. And the interview is like, he doesn't really answer the question. He just kind of like evades it, without answering. And so the guy's like in response, like, "Okay, why don't you just answer this question instead of trying to say all this other stuff?" And finally, the episode ends with him going to try to work with these guys who really needed to work with him to kind of like get attention back on them. But once they find out he's gay and it's been released, they're like, "Well, we can't work with him now because try to work with him now, they're gonna think we're gay too by association." And as ignorant as that sound, it's true. And so they don't want to work, so they hide when he comes to their house. And finally he leaves like, it's now nobody's gonna work with him now. This crap is out. No one's gonna want to like, I think it's over. Like it's really over. And then Riley shows up and he's like, "Hey, are you gay?" And he just went and just directly asked him, and he was like, he could have answered. He could have told him the truth, but honestly, like he didn't want to even admit it himself. So he was like, "No, of course I'm not gay," or whatever. And he just plays like so many men do. When they're confronted with that question, they just have to kind of like play it off. You're taught to do that from a young age. You're taught like just to deny, and repress, and because that's what is socially accepted, is to deny those kind of feelings if you have them, and it's always taught to be it's wrong and it's a sin, and it's like all these bad connotations that come with being it, and just in general, even though it's become a lot more accepted over the years and over the last couple decades or whatever, there's still a lot of bad connotations with being gay. There's still a lot of ignorance out there, and a lot of just prejudice out there against people who are gay for whatever reasons. And then sometimes when people see other gay people, when they see them acting in more stereotypical ways, and when they do see, they assume everybody acts like that. It's not true. But since they don't really have a whole bunch of people who are that they know they're like that, whenever you see any interaction with someone gay and you just happen to see that particular image of that person, they think we're all like that, and it just kind of like damages, unfortunately, our image just in a greater sense, because not all gay men act exactly the same, even though those stereotypes are out there. And so it's a really good episode. It kind of makes you think, and if you are gay, you just kind of like, you kind of see the stuff, and you also kind of like, you kind of understand, because it's kind of sad there when Riley was kind of like putting the pieces together, just kind of realizing, wait a minute, so if I like this dude, it's music, and I'm his biggest fan and stuff like that, and I'm wearing all these clothes and do all these things, and he's gay, then he's like, then am I gay, too? And and you kind of realize he thinks he is gay, and but at such a young age, it's kind of hard to understand that, trying to put it two and two together, and it's kind of sad, but it's kind of like that for a lot of gay men, just kind of like who don't want to admit it because they're ashamed or can't comprehend it fully, or just not really accept it where they're from, and so they have to like limit themselves. They cannot really be themselves for fear of being outcast, or being basically being outcast. So it's a world of things. It's a lot of different things, and it's a tough world out there, man. And a lot of times, if you're any kind of different, it gets tougher, because the world is kind of made in a lot of ways for whatever it's comfortable with already. And so whenever you're trying to do something different and move in a different way, people aren't comfortable with that. People don't like change a lot of times because, it forces them to have to move and do something different from what they're used to doing. People like doing what they already know doing. People are a creature of habits for most parts, so trying to make them do something new and they're not used to it and it requires them to do work, they're just like, no. Their immediate response is, to go against it, not to change. So it's interesting, and that's kind of want to talk about and kind of react to the episode. Because the episode is kind of, I understand it, and it's a good episode, and it makes a lot of point about several different things, and it's just good overall. So this is me, Marvin. I'm so done.